reason why we're watching the Unabomber, by the way, is because of this. The Unabomber Ted Kaczynski dies in prison. We're gonna wrap up the Unabomber saga in a second.
Andrew, I mean, this is bringing up a whole lot of memories about, how Ted Kaczynski actually ended up, in custody. I mean, it was a great mystery for a very long time who was responsible for these, homemade bombs, these explosions, which were deadly explosions. And then ultimately, how investigators were able to piece it together. I mean, it really was an extraordinary mystery.
It really was. It's one of those cases that will go down in the history of the FBI as one of the most challenging and arduous investigations we mounted, but ultimately successful in 1995. We learned, of course, once we'd located Mr. Kaczynski and taken him into custody and saw the primitive conditions under which he was living, that's what made it so hard to really develop any effective leads for all those years. He was so completely off the grid, really leaving no trace of himself in any of the traditional ways that people do. But fortunately, with the publication of his manifesto, we were able to develop the sort of information from the public and specifically from family members that helped us crack the case.
And let's try and unravel some of that, because he was living in a cabin. I mean, it was, he wanted to be off the grid. That was his ambition. But at least one of the bombings took place as early as in the 70s at a Chicago university. And then you also, and it was a great mystery who was responsible for all of this. He was off the grid in a cabin, but perhaps his abduction, or his arrest it was self-inflicted. I mean, he authored this manifesto. He sent it right to the FBI. Perhaps he thought he would continue to be mysterious, but then they were able to piece together any relations and use this as evidence, publish it. And it was his brother who ultimately would help turn him in, right?
That's absolutely right. So Kaczynski started in the late 1970s with what began as a primitive, low-tech mail bombing campaign directed predominantly at universities and airline industry representatives and different airline-related targets. Of course, in '79 was able to get a bomb on an American Airlines flight that fortunately did not detonate, but it let off a great degree of smoke, which alerted the pilots and were able to effect an emergency landing. There's no doubt that had that bomb gone off, it would have taken the plane down and taken all those lives with it. So an incredibly focused, determined, resilient adversary, right? And somebody who was motivated primarily by his extremist positions with respect to the environment. People today, we think about domestic terrorism, we typically think about
totally. That's why.
About it in very different contexts. In the 80s and 1990s, environmental terrorism was a major program that was being worked by the FBI because we had extremist activity around
Dude, come on, dude. Come on. Painting him as an eco-terrorist, like 90% of the fucking people that the FBI, 90% of the people that the FBI fucking arrests as like eco-terrorists are like 65-year-old old school hippies who didn't actually fucking turn reactionary and would like strap themselves to fucking nuclear sites. Okay? Like the idea that these guys were working on eco-terrorists and that's why they were working on Ted Kaczynski is fucking hilarious. That is, oh my God, dude. Portraying him like an eco-terrorist is so fucking stupid. His targets were quite literally like random fucking college professors. What the fuck are we talking about? It's a gross way to portray people like actual anarchist activists and people who are legitimately and understandably protesting the initiatives of massive corporations that are ruining the environment for profit, in the same vein as like a guy who was a psychotic reactionary who was just sending fucking mail bombs to like PhDs. And that he was an eco-fascist. Exactly. But a fascist is the main thing he was. The idea that he was an eco-fascist and therefore he was an eco-terrorist in the same vein as, like, you know, literal Greenpeace people is so stupid. He's doing it deliberately because he's a fucking cop. If they were to offer you the actual types of people that they arrest for quote unquote crimes against like pipelines and shit, you would see a very different portrayal. This motherfucker blew up 0 pipelines, okay? This motherfucker killed 0 oil and gas executives. Get the fuck out. He didn't even attempt to do that. He didn't try to do any of that. That's so stupid.
People who objected to environmental development, and Kaczynski was really kind of at the forefront of those thoughts. Not that he was a member of a group, but at the forefront of that ideology, and he pursued this bombing campaign as a way of striking back against technological advancement, which he believed was damaging the environment in ways that needed to be stopped.
Are you able to share with us some of the concerns that the FBI, that the Attorney General at the time, Janet Reno, had about whether they share this manifesto with the public, whether it would be used as an instrument, to further or agitate, threats against the U.S., domestic terrorism, and at the same time, what they were contemplating as to how it could ultimately be a tool to help capture the Unabomber?
Sure, I'm aware of those deliberations and those concerns only from the same way that, you and your viewers are, from understanding the history of it. I actually came into the Bureau in 1996, so it was right as the case was kind of coming to its close. Nevertheless, having been in many high-level meetings with attorneys general and FBI directors around these things, I can only imagine the way that each possible impact of the causes of action that they were considering.
Ted focused on educators who he saw as furthering industrial civilization through education. Come on, dude. I think he was just fucking unhinged. I mean, the court found him to be mentally ill. And yes, I think he was mentally ill. His ideology was all over the fucking place. We just covered it for the past like 2-3 hours. He was just like saying some random shit. He was an unhinged random psychopath. Tried to put together like a cohesive ideology. Look into who the victims were. Chatter isn't wrong. I think in order to take down industrial society, what you got to do is like blow up a guy at Best Buy. What you got to do is blow up some fucking random PhD student, or whichever fucking college professor is like dumb enough to pick up a parcel from the ground. That's how you're supposed to do it. Who are the real villains of society? Fucking college professors. Any supposed quote unquote leftist in this fucking community of all communities that unironically believes that fucking college professors have a fraction of power. And I don't mean like college professors turned lobbyists, turned fucking guys who work in like the Obama or Trump administration. I'm talking just like straight up college professors who are still at college. You think those guys have any fucking power? How are you any different than the regular old Fox News watching 45-year-old divorced dad, HVAC business owner, reactionary, who unironically channels that exact same conspiracy through their lives every fucking day? They take it one step further. They also say, you know who holds all the power? Trans students. You know what I mean? Doing it wrong equals not true. Got it? I mean, where is the consistent, coherent narrative throughout, like, what he is even stating? There is none. His targets don't make sense. There is no clear-cut, cohesive narrative in his ideology. Ultimately, if it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, then it's like, and he's like objectively insane. At a certain point, you have to realize, why the fuck am I trying so desperately to look at a dude whose manifesto was supposed to open up the eyes of millions of people, and it didn't at the time, and now you're looking at it, many, many years later, okay, and his inherently contradictory ideology is you know, somehow, I don't know, makes sense to you, that says more about you than him, to be honest. Like, I have also participated in the Industrial Revolution and its consequences memes, right? I've done that too. I've shown my fair share of, like, I don't know, oil tankers sinking and, you know, nuclear power plants falling apart. I've shown you this many times. But, like, it's memes. You're not supposed to take this seriously. Like, you're not supposed to look at this and go, you're not supposed to look at this and have an afterthought that is anything beyond, haha, that's funny. I know you can't legally send hate, but tell me who to camp with my American rights, bruh. What? But he did the wrong thing to solve the right problems? No, the problems were not even the right problems. He didn't address the right problems. You're wrong about that too. Like, no, he did the wrong thing and his analysis was wrong. There were, like, right parts about it for sure. But, you know, it's kind of like looking at Jordan Peterson and being like, well, that's a guy who told me to clean my room. Why are you so upset at that? It's like looking at Andrew Tate and saying, well, that's a guy who's telling me I have the tools to success and that I should just go work out. Why are you getting mad? Okay? Like, the problems exist. Okay? He has a solution. It's the wrong solution. His analysis is also wrong overall. Like, unless you think the most significant problem in society is how collectivist we are, I don't think you agree with Ted Kaczynski's analysis. You looked at a capitalist dystopia and you thought it's not those who are fucking generating, who are sucking value out of the international working class, but instead it's the existence of the iPhone that's at fault. So we should kill fucking people that, what is this? Anyway, my point is this, okay? It is like looking at, it's like looking at global capitalism, okay? And then getting mad at the iPhone's existence and then killing someone that works at a fucking Apple bar, like killing a genius that works at an Apple bar to solve the problem with industrial society, okay? That's crazy. No one should look at that and go, wow, that guy made a lot of sense. When I shit on industrial revolution or industrial society, I'm mostly joking. I love technology. I'm a Twitch streamer. You know what I mean? I would not exist. My job, my career, okay, would not be real without technological innovation. I also am a big time advocate for taking a shower. Okay, so that's 2 L's for Ted. Not a big fan of his ideas and what he represents beyond just like memeing about how certain externalities caused by the Industrial Revolution do bother me.
Considering was micro-analyzed to understand, are we making this issue worse if we give this person a platform, if we allow him to put his ideology out there, if it has an inspirational effect on other like-minded people, we could actually essentially be doing his job for him. On the other hand, and as I understand, Attorney General Janet Reno argued pretty strenuously that this was our best shot of kind of shaking the tree, as it were, to try to identify the author of the manifesto. And that, to her credit, is exactly how it worked out. Kaczynski's brother and his wife became aware of the manifesto. They had suspicions about Kaczynski before the manifesto, but it was the manifesto that really put Kaczynski's brother over the threshold and motivated him to contact the FBI and say that he thought he he knew about, he knew who the author was.
What more, if anything, can you tell us about kind of the evolution of this criminal profiling that was kind of born at this time?
So that's become a mainstay of the FBI. As you know, it's frequently captured in lore about the Bureau and movies and TV series, things like that. But it's become one of the most relied upon assets in these particularly hard cases, cold cases, bombing campaign like this one, multiple homicide cases that you believe are linked to the same perpetrator, when investigators have really expended their well of effective leads based on forensics and crime scene evidence and things like that. They often turn to the behavioral scientists, the folks at what we call BAU, the Behavioral Sciences Unit, to try to assist in guiding them towards, if not specific people, populations of people that they should consider as possibly being individuals or groups of people that would be could be involved in that sort of activity. It is truly a dark science, not something that I ever did when I was in the Bureau, but I have great respect for the men and women who do that every day. I would expect that those same sort of assets are being utilized to try to figure out who was behind the 2 bombs left on Capitol Hill on January 6th. That's a crime that continues to be unsolved, and one that causes great concern in law enforcement for many of the same reasons that we saw in the Unabomber investigation, right? These folks who are inclined to lash out with bombs that are either placed or sent through the mail, they often start out in rudimentary ways, but their proficiency in technology develops over time. They very rarely ever just staging these sorts of bombing campaigns. They very frequently come back to them time and time again. So that is a case that I'm sure is taking a lot of FBI attention right now.
And is, among the pattern of events, is it the case that over time there develops this sort of bravado and almost like a yearning for attention without being identified, to be praised, that they continue to be so mysterious, and then suddenly a mistake is made, like in the case of this manifesto, it ended up backfiring, whereas he may have felt like he wanted to elaborate on motivation. That, in the end, is how they ended up getting him, in part.
It's very true. Many of these long, extended investigations over so-called cold cases with repeat offenders, they develop almost a sort of dialogue with the investigators through their criminal acts. They want to kind of maintain the attention of the investigators. They want to constantly kind of outdo themselves. It's a real catch-22 for law enforcement and for investigators. Every time they reach out through making contact or communications or engage in another criminal act, you have the opportunity of developing the clue or the investigative lead that could lead you to their apprehension. But of course, every time they do that, the public is also at great risk. So there's immense pressure on the investigators to bring that back and forth, to bring that criminal activity to a halt before additional folks are injured or killed.
So still unclear the cause of death, but he was 81. He apparently was moved recently within the past year from a facility in Colorado, federal facility in Colorado, to North Carolina for health reasons. How important will it be to publicly reveal the ultimate cause of death?
I think it's always important for the government to be transparent about what happens in the detention facilities. Just, to my understanding, there's no reason to believe, from what little we know about this situation, that there's anything untoward involved here.
I mean, he was like, what is he, like 84 years old? Yeah, I feel like, come on, is he 81 or 84? Oh, it's 81 on the fucking screen right there. Yeah, I think it makes sense when you're 81 years old and you die. It's not like, wow, this guy sure had an untimely demise, or that he had some secrets and the government came after him. just like nothing happened to Epstein in prison. Jeffrey Epstein literally did have secrets and also wasn't old and had already gone to prison and did not kill himself at all. Making a comparison between Jeffrey Epstein, who we still have not found what kind of blackmail tapes he had in his facility. The Manhattan DA will probably never reveal that shit. Who was connected to like literally all of the world's powerful, wealthy individuals who died under incredibly suspicious circumstances, and the footage was mysteriously deleted. The security camera footage was mysteriously deleted from his cell block. Comparing that to like a dude who's been in prison for fucking 30 years, who was just like some random fucking kook who died of old age is a little crazy.
He's obviously exhibited some sort of health problems in the recent past. He was moved to the facility in North Carolina. Likely Butner, the federal prison hospital in Butner, North Carolina, is a place where many federal prisoners end up who have significant health issues. Bernie Madoff, I believe, was at Butner when he passed as well. So I think it's very important for transparency reasons to fully understand the circumstances around the death, but I would caution speculation at this point. We don't really have any reason to believe anything untoward happened here just yet.